Thanks, Jeff. Brings back a lot of memories seeing all the faces around here tonight. But Jeff's asked me to speak about the 70s era rallying. I think I need to go back a fraction earlier than that, because I first started rallying with my old father-in-law, Ron Prime, who at that stage, when I first started, he wasn't my father-in-law, but was one of the very early members of the car club here. And I used to go out to Tarrawingi quite often with him to the races and things. But getting down to the rallying stage, I can't remember what dates or what era we started, but Ron had I think it was a HD Holden, white HD Holden, the family car, and Ron had a pretty heavy right foot too. And it's one of the little memories I've got little memories in here of everybody I'm going to speak about tonight, just different little incidents that happened. But I remember one night coming back from a rally late one night, back towards Tarrawingi, around El Dorado somewhere, doing 1,000,000 miles an hour, and one of Dudley Shepherd's sheep happened to walk out onto the road in front of the car. We pulled up about 100 metres down the road, and the sheep was spread all along the road from when we first hit. Didn't do a lot of damage to the car, but the sheep was a bit second-hand. I can remember when he sold that car years later, there were still bits of petrified guts and stuff, springs and whatever. But when I first started rallying with Ron, I was doing an apprenticeship. I sat in the back seat, and Billy Steele was navigating for him. Billy used to get crook occasionally during rallies and things, and just another little memory I had. Ron used to live over the back fence from where I used to live with Mum and Dad, and after a rally I used to go over and help them clean the car up the following morning, you know. And this particular day we'd washed the car and got all the mud off it and everything else. Couldn't get this stuff off the back window. I thought, that's a bit odd. Realised that it wasn't on outside the back window, it was inside the back window, and got in and had a good look, and there's little bits of, you know, white all over the back window of the car. But the thing that made me really realise what had happened, and because I didn't think about it the night before, there was a little clean spot inside the back window, about the shape of my head. The rest of the windscreen was covered. Getting into the 70s, I navigated for Bill Steele. He had a little Mazda 1500 or something, Mum's little shopping car, and they were enjoyable days. Bill wasn't a fast driver, but he was a safe driver, and it was good for me to learn in. Get down to, we've already spoken about Bruce Watt here. I remember those rallies used to be called motorboat regattas more than anything else, but I'm pretty sure it was in one of the Benalla trials. I was with Dennis Jekyll, and we were at the back of Benalla somewhere, and late at night, come over a crest, and there was a tree directly across the road in front of us. Couldn't miss it. Hit the thing. The wheels of the Cortina were like this after we bounced across it. When we got out of the car, we could smell chainsaw smoke, and the tree had been cut down between the car that was in front of us and us. And some farmer was standing out in the darkness there, probably looking at us and laughing, and you know, we were cursing. And poor old Dennis, I don't know whether he did too many rallies after that. I did a few rallies with Frank Conn, as mentioned before, in his little Saab. I can remember a rally, once again it was probably a Bruce Watt special. Barry McCulloch, poor old Barry's no longer with us, and I'm pretty sure it might have been Arthur Ingerfield navigating for him. He ended up belly up in a creek somewhere, and we come along not too long afterwards, but Ronnie Lugg and whoever he was navigating for had arrived next car along, and I think Ron got out, stripped off and went into the water and dragged them both out of the water. And I've had a lot of respect for Ronnie Lugg ever since for that. Getting on to even bigger things, I did a few rallies with Graham Robertson in the old what was supposed to be the ex-London to Sydney Marathon car, but Graham tells me it wasn't. But, and this was probably another vanilla rally because it was pretty wet, and we were fairly fortunate, I think, because we were fairly early on in the field. We went through a boggy stretch and the navigation was a bit difficult to find and whatever else, and we managed to find our way through, and where everybody else got to that same stretch that we'd been through, and it held up for a fair while. But Graham used to pedal along pretty well, and we were going down the Lima East Road or whatever it was, and we took one corner. It was a right-hander from memory, and centrifugal force of the car was working on a slightly larger radius than the road had, and we went into orbit and hit a tree head on, probably about 20 feet up in the air. Fortunately, we landed on our wheels, and that was the end of our rally. And I think Graham Handley came along next and picked up Graham and took him home. That was half an hour or 3/4 of an hour later. We had to wait that long for the next car to come along, so we could have almost reversed for the rest of the rally and still won it. Probably one of the fastest rallies I've ever been in was a Blue Ribbon rally, and I navigated for Brian Berg in his little Anglia, which was a magnificent little car, and was fully set up with the roll cage and the full harness belts and everything else. And we did particularly well in that rally. I can't remember where we came, but it must have been a VRC event or something, because the Holden Deal team were in it. And there was one memorable section that we had from Jemison across to Snobs Creek or somewhere, and we'd been timed out. We'd been given the go to take off at the start of the section. No lights. It took us about 10 minutes or something to find what the problem was, and I think it was a dip switch on the floor or whatever else. But anyway, we took off, and I think we caught up to about 3 or 4 of the cars that had taken off prior to us on the way across. But that was probably about the fastest I've ever been in a rally car on a road. Jeffrey Whitten, I don't know whether you were the last person I navigated for, but there's a few other people in between, but Jeff used to scare me at times. Jeffrey was very, very cool in the car. He was always relaxed, laid back, and he was a very, very good driver. We were in an event in the Reef Hills, just out of Benalla, and the Reef Hills is pretty flat and open, and it's really, really fast stuff. And there's a big long straight on this one particular section that we were going down. God knows what speed, but it wasn't legal. About halfway down, there was an old fence went across the track, and it was a bit of an angle to the track, and there was a gate post on either side. I'll never forget this, Jeff. It's the top of you. It was probably a 12-foot wide gate, but the angle we were taking it at was a lot less than 12 feet. First time we went through, I reckon we left a little bit of paint off the front left-hand guard, and then a little bit of paint off the right rear guard on each of the 2 posts. The section did a loop and come back to where we started from, and then we had to do that bit of the section again and then loop off into somewhere else. And I reminded Jeff about this particular gate. I reckon he went through it about 20 or 30 kilometres per hour faster the next time around. It wasn't long after that I retired as a navigator. I had a wife and 3 kids, and you had to really seriously think about things. But one other little thing that I did, Jeff, and I'm not sure 100% about this, but we were invited to a car release down at Winton Motor Raceway for Saab, and Eric Carlson was there, who was a former world rally champion, and they were doing laps around the Winton circuit for journalists and whatever, and Jeff and I managed to wangle a ride with Eric Carlson around the track, and Jeff was sitting in the front and I was sitting in the back of the car, and I've never been so frightened in all my life. Until about the 3rd or the 4th corner he went around, then I realised he knew what he was doing, but how you could change gears without using the clutch, how the tyres stayed on. You could hear the tyres from 10 miles away screaming, and he was just brutal on that car, but he was a wizard. To finish up, I think I've been fairly privileged to have been in this club and as a navigator and a member, and started off in those early days when we had the old mum's shopping car as the basic rally car. We measured distances in miles, the times in minutes. We had the old Broadbent's 321D map or whatever as the base map to work from, and the rallies were designed around that. I've managed to go through into the era when we started to use the topographical maps with using grid references and things, and rally cars all got a bit faster. Right up to the stage where, as mentioned before, we started fully route chart events. The distances were measured down to the nearest 10 metres, and times were measured to the nearest second. So that's a pretty good era to have been in. I'd just like to thank Jeff, Betty and the rest of the club for organising tonight and this weekend, because it's certainly a wonderful club to be part of. Thank you.